Cool, guys. How are we doing? So, welcome to case study number two. I'm with my man, Tim Sentence. Tim worked with me for 2.5 years, Tim.
That's right. Yeah, 2.5 years.
Two and a half
It
years.
flew by, JB.
Just like that. Boom.
Yeah,
Tim is now is now coming in to come and talk about his experience through the Remember the Mission process, come to work with me. It's really just talking about Tim and his journey, and we're going to kind of document the journey through the process. So thank you for taking the time to come in. I think just before we get into it, Tim, if you just give a little bit of a background into um, who you are now, what you do, and then we can get into the questions that we're going to talk about.
yeah, sure. So I run a wedding band agency called Bougie Music, and so we provide live music, live bands, live musicians for weddings. And I've been running that business now for coming up to 10 years. So yeah, it's a husband and wife team originally, me and my wife Lizzie, that started the business. And over the course of 9 years, I've moved from being a musician myself and Lizzie being a singer herself, stepping back from performing, growing the business, and eventually about 2.5 years ago, moving to running the business full time.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's been quite a journey, right?
It
Quite a
has been
journey.
a journey, yes, the cliche roller coaster, 100%.
So we'll go through the before. So we're going to talk about like what you was feeling before you come and work with me. And I remember where I was. I was on a school run picking up my daughter, and
Mhm.
I remember checking in up on you, and you were doing a 90 at the time, right? The 90 dayer.
That's right, yeah.
And I messaged you, and can you remember your reply?
I can't remember the reply specifically. I more remember what you said, more likely. It's just get yourself together and start putting the work in, essentially.
100%. So it was that classic case of you being very overwhelmed with work, right?
Yes.
Like lots going on.
Yeah.
Successful company from the outside,
Hmm.
from the outside, probably people looking, but maybe you, from what I remember and what we've spoken about, internally in a cycle of chaos, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, weddings is obviously a seasonal business, so April through October, you're very
Yeah,
busy. A little
yeah,
bit around Christmas, but it's quite seasonal. So after COVID, which was a difficult period, we came back and things were busier than they'd ever been
yeah,
once everything rebounded. So the first season, the first summer season, wedding season, was very chaotic, and it was easy to excuse that because it was coming back from COVID. There were so many challenges that were not there before. It was when we came around to the second season, the year after, where I was back in the same chaos. That was where I
yeah,
really realized that this was actually not necessarily about COVID or anything external. It was about what was happening inside the business and with me, that I didn't have the skills to run the business to the size that I'd grown it. And that was where I initially reached out to you.
yeah,
Obviously, I had maybe an afternoon of calm where I signed up to the 90-day and then was straight back into the carnage and couldn't make the time, didn't have
yeah,
the structure to make the time to actually do anything. So it was then a couple of months later when obviously my 90 days were coming up and I hadn't really shown up, that you messaged me and was like, well, what have you been up to? What are you doing?
yeah,
Are you gonna do anything or not? And at that point, the season was ending, and it was good timing in that I was starting to have the space again to actually
yeah.
put some time into it, and I could start working on myself and the things that needed to happen, in the off season for me to not be in a third year the next year round.
Yeah. Can you remember the fit like during that period? I think it was 2022, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was around that time.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, can you remember back then the kind of feelings that you were having leading up to signing to the 90? And to be fair, when you did the 90, we didn't really get the most out of it at that time.
Mm,
Um, but I think towards the end we did, which then led on to your success afterwards. You kind of have to go
yes,
through that process, right? Can you
yes.
remember like can you remember any particular feelings that you were kind of going through as a guy?
I think the word that always comes back to me is just failure. I just felt like I was failing at everything. I was failing in business. I was failing in my personal life as a father, and as a husband. And I just didn't. There was just too much going on. I was firefighting day after day after day, and I never really got a chance to step back and do any. kind of planning or strategizing or anything beyond just solving the problem that was right in front of me. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, when you operate like that, there are always problems because you haven't planned anything. So
Yeah.
things are going wrong all the time. And it's just a vicious cycle where,
Yeah.
there's always urgent things that need doing. And it's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. And I felt like I had the potential to really succeed, but I just didn't know how to get there.
Yeah. I always describe that as being handcuffed to the post, right? Like you're just,
Hmm.
or it's the resistance band when you stick it around your waist and you're like, you want
Hmm.
to sprint really hard, but it just fucking brings you straight back, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'd say in addition to that, there's also water up to about here, and you're trying
Yeah.
to trying to gasp for breath every now and then as well.
So like one of the things that really struck me was that failure that you felt in yourself about not being there for Liz or not being there for the kids. What
Mhm.
did that actually look like on a day-to-day basis?
I think there's kind of two sides to it. There's the kind of obvious time thing where I'm having to stay up till whatever o'clock in the morning to try and get stuff done, and then I'm tired the next day, or I'm getting up super early to try and fit more work in, more hours in, and
Yeah,
then just that is eroding time with the family because I'm
yeah,
trying to find more hours for work. And then
yeah,
there's obviously the like actual mental headspace of even when I am not working, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, it's not possible to relax, I'm not feeling like happy and fulfilled, and you just don't you're not the same person when you're in that headspace. So yeah, time and also just headspace, not being in the
presence, isn't
right
it?
frame of mind. Yeah, presence. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Did Liz ever pick you up on it? I don't think I ever asked you that.
I mean, it's something that we talked about a lot was like the level of stress. And I always felt like there was a point in the future where if I get to this thing happens, then it'll be easier after that. But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
became apparent to us both that that point never really came, and it was just the next thing would be straight afterwards. So you're never really getting that respite, and it's very tiring for her to constantly hear like it'll be better when, and then the when never
yeah,
happens, and you start to lose faith in that.
yeah. I agree. How many hours do you reckon you were working back then? A week?
Um, I obviously was not structured enough to ever put a clock on it, but it would have been a lot. I would either stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, or I would get up. I would go to bed with Lizzie a normal hour, and then I'd get up at 2 or 3 in the morning and just fit in an extra 4 hours before work. So whatever your normal working day is, plus 3 or 4 hours a
Yeah,
day. And
yeah,
obviously, you just can't do that forever. You burn out. You're not getting enough rest mentally or
yeah,
physically.
yeah. Did you, would you have considered, do you think at the time you recognize, number one, that there was something wrong? Like, as in, there's a real difference between really connecting, like, I know something's wrong here,
Hmm.
or did you just think, oh, I know it's going to get better? Did you keep saying that oh, it's just going to get better? Or actually, there's nothing actually wrong. This is just how busy people run their lives.
There's definitely a mentality of like, if you want to run a business and if you want to be successful, you just have to grind. And
Yeah,
that's part of it. And I think there is truth in that, like it is hard work, but that
yeah,
hard work is not the same as like never ending work or just or long work. You can work hard, but still have the end of a day and not be overrun. So yeah,
yeah,
I think I felt like in some ways it was inevitable, but then as it went on and on and on, and it gradually just became clearer to me that this can't be how successful people operate because it didn't feel like success to me at
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah. I agree, and I think there is this fine line, isn't there, of balance between like being a success in your business, but then managing those expectations, managing that perfect mentality, which is definitely something that you have as well, right? Is that
Yeah.
like one, and that's quite exhausting on your energy, isn't it? Wanting to be
Hmm.
everything to be absolutely perfect and fine tuned. Did,
Uh-huh.
did you find that that was one of those things that just constantly drained you, and one of the leakages that you had?
Yeah, I think definitely when you want everything to when you have ambition and you feel
Yep.
like you have the potential to achieve it, when you're constantly falling short of that, it's really hard. I think there's a difference between accepting that you can't be perfect and accepting 80 or 90% is still a job well done
Yep.
versus constantly being a like 20, 30, 40%, and knowing that you're so far from where it needs to be, that
Yeah.
is very, very draining.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So when you first registered, well, how did you, can you even remember how you found me?
I was recommended to get in touch with you by a different an industry mentor I had at the time.
Ellen.
It was Kelly.
Kelly, sorry. Kelly.
That's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Kelly.
So Kelly recommended you, and I went on your website and signed up for the 90-day.
Yeah.
I think I initially wanted some one-to-one contact,
Yeah.
and a bit more of a personal thing. But that we did eventually get to that.
Yeah.
But to start with, I just signed up for the 90-day, and it seemed, I could tell that everything was in there, but I didn't work through it because I didn't have the structure at the time to make consistent time for personal
Yeah.
development or actually learning new skills.
Whereas you now know you do.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I literally have it
What made
blocked
you
in my
sign up?
diary every day.
Yeah, that's fine. What made you, what made you actually pull the trigger? What was the final straw?
I think it was being in the second season of the same thing and recognizing that it was not going to change unless I changed.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. Yeah.
so, I realized that I didn't have whatever skills were required to manage my life and the
Yeah.
business. And it was only through learning something that I didn't know that I was going to be able to do it. And so
Yeah.
the only way to learn is from other people. And I'd had good success learning some sales and marketing skills from this other mentor, Kelly. So
Yeah.
my thought was, who is the right person to help me with this other kind of skill that I need, the time management,
Yeah.
the boundaries, the personal development, those skills. Who can I find who's going to teach me that stuff? And it seemed, and I now know that you were able to help me with that.
So we evolved, didn't we? So we kind of had that chat, and you were at that doorway where, oh God, I didn't quite get what I wanted at night because I just was too busy. I was too, and then
Yeah,
we moved. You come through, and then you joined our top 1%, right? So
yeah.
how was that for you? How's the top 1% been for you over those last 2 years?
It's been game changing for sure.
Yeah,
It's the first time that I've been in a group of really high performing people, and been able to learn not just from you but from the group as well, and
yeah,
just the different mentality within that group and the different skills and experiences that everyone has. You're not just learning from the mentor from you. You're learning from the group and absorbing all of their little micro habits and little bits of advice and experience that you have. So yeah, it's valuable in two dimensions, I would say, from a kind of peer way as well as from learning from someone who is ahead of you as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Because you've been on it. You were the founding member, right? And you went through it all, progressing right through to those level of people being in there, right?
Yeah.
In those respects. How do you, so when we look at the outcomes or your ROI and what you've got back, if you could bullet point any of those things, what would be the standout things that you've evolved into the man that you are today?
So I would say knowing how to plan your day and your week, is one of the first things that I learned, and having a structure around how to manage all the different inputs.
Okay.
So I would say learning how to plan your day and your week and your month, or even further. There's so many inputs and so many tasks and projects and things that you have to manage. So having a structure of actually knowing how to put that into your day, into your week, and manage it over the longer term, so that you're not missing deadlines and you're not firefighting, and you're able to and plan ahead. So that
Yeah.
whole planning and management side of things was one of the most important things that I learned. I would say understanding the importance of accountability, and having a structure in place where you are having to show up consistently and not look for these massive wins.
Yeah. So in terms of family and health, how have those things changed? What were the non-negotiables that changed for you?
Well, having boundaries around those things is basically the difference. So having boundaries around family time versus work time, and having boundaries around when I am prioritizing my health and training, and doing that consistently versus just letting work erode into all those areas and not having any separation at all. Separation was is so important. And one of the first things that we did together was get two phones, and that's just the clearest example I can give of just having a really clear boundary of, if my work phone is on, I'm working. If it's off, I'm not working. And as soon as you start drawing those boundaries in all the different parts of your life, you start to understand how you can actually be in the right place and the right headspace to do, be a family person versus be the work person.
100%. 100%. No, I'm going to wrap up because I know you got to go. So just in terms of final thoughts on feelings that you have today versus 2022, what are some of the more feelings that you have today?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say control is the main one. I just have more control over my day to day, and I'm able to plan ahead and be proactive rather than reactive. So when something comes in, it's not an emergency that I have to solve straight away. It's just, okay, I understand that will need doing. Here's a structure for doing it. And just having that kind of calmness and control around everything that's happening, and not being, head down in the storm, but just being above things and able to see the bigger picture and maintain that in the longer run, rather than having these brief moments of clarity, and that then disappear, but instead just being more calm and controlled, through weeks and months and longer periods of time.
Like a leader.
Your words, not mine.
So I think that's been a really interesting story of going from that place of chaos, it affecting the family. I think that was always the big thing that stood out for me, for you, in your journey, is how do we make you a leader, which you are, even though you don't think you're quite there yet, but you are that leader, and making decisions that allow you to build your business around your life, not your life around your business anymore. And I think that is a big statement in terms of intent, right? So thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you coming on board and coming to talk about this.
Hey, thank you for everything you've done for me as well.
Anytime, anytime. So guys, if you're listening to this and you kind of think to yourself, man, this is definitely something that I need to do. So you can either do two things. Number one, you can listen to the next case study that's down here, or you can see how to work with us in the description down below. All right. Thanks for watching, and we will see you soon.